I know I and many other people decided you got to think globally, but you got to act locally. And decided we'd get busy in our own neck of the woods or our own bend of the river.
Pete Seeger picked a great day for us to go out on the Woody Guthrie sloop, but that's what sailing on the Hudson is all about. And we'll find out what Pete Seeger is all about, too, when we come back right here on the river. On the River is brought to you by Freihofers.
I can remember that Freihofers taste, so fresh and so good it puts a smile on my face. What Freihofers bakes has always been good for you. Remember the freshness, remember the taste, remember the fun on a Freihofers bake. Freihofers, always as good as you remember.
Bob Freihoffer's Hudson River Pop Quiz.
True or false? The city of Hudson was once one of New York's biggest fur trapping centers. I'll be right back with the answer.
There's a variety of reasons for loving delicious Freihoffer's breads. Over 20 of them.
Always as good as you remember.
False. Believe it or not, Hudson was at one time one of New York's most important whaling centers. I'm Bob Freihoffer, and we at Freihoffer's are proud to serve the Hudson Valley area.
The Woody Guthrie, a sloop modeled after the 18th century sloops that ferried bricks and livestock up and down the Hudson River. It's a smaller version of the Hudson River Clearwater that we boarded in Logbooks 1 and 38. Well, today the Woody is operated by 100 or so members of the Beacon Sloop Club. Its owner and originator, folk singer Pete Seeger, says its mission is to promote appreciation and environmental concern for the river. Its dedicated volunteer crew members, even in the rain, now will hoist up the sails and will take the Woody out for a ride.
Okay, let's take her up and see what happens.
Hold the fluid, Howard, slow it down a little bit.
Let everybody hold the peak, lower the peak a little bit.
Howard, lower the peak. Let it down. Okay, take her up nice and level now. Nice and level. Like a sail stop here. Yeah, leave that sail stop there right now. Okay. Oh, excuse me. No, you're right.
Hey, somebody left the sail stop.
No, that's okay. Very good. Thank you for noticing.
Okay, watch it. All
right. Okay. There's a little water in the sail, not much.
Sail.
But it may come. Hold it! Sail stop in the stern.
Are we going to put the flag in?
I think you both better come down to the cockpit.
Now, before we venture off into the Hudson, the crew members must first reef the sail by rolling and tying down a portion of it in order to lessen the area exposed to the wind. One doesn't always have to reef a sail, but on extremely windy days such as this one, it is necessary.
Hold on, we may have blue line or not.
It's fine, Pete. It's maxed already.
How tight is it?
It's to the knot, so it can't go any further anyway.
No fooling.
Yeah, they have this knot here at the end of it. It stops it from going anywhere.
Okay.
Once the sail is set, the wind takes hold and there's no stopping the Woody. Now let's meet the man behind it all. Pete Seeger, folk singer and environmental activist. He says he has high hopes for the Hudson, that one day people will be able to swim in it from its most northern tip in the Adirondacks all the way down to its southernmost tip in Manhattan. Pete says the venture with the Woody began by accident.
A friend of mine loans me a book on the old sailboats that carried cargo on the river. And I wrote a letter saying, wouldn't it be great to have a replica of one of these? None of us could afford it, but if we got a couple hundred people together, maybe we could share it. And 3 years later, the 100-ton Clearwater was launched. And 8 years later, we thought we'd like to have some more boats and tried to see what a small boat could do. In some ways, it's more difficult. The Clearwater has a professional captain, but we're all volunteers, all amateurs. And we take turns sailing this, and it's all voluntary, and we take people out free of charge.
Now, when this all began 25 years ago, it was really the start of something, and it was a renaissance as well. Did you think that could have happened?
I have to confess, no. I didn't dream that we'd really be successful as much as we have. We still have a long way to go, but we're now swimming in this river, at least in this point of the river. And I think if we keep on pushing near New York and Albany, we'll be swimming within 10 years.
What do you think it was, Pete? Just
a coincidence.
A coincidence, okay.
A coincidence. A beautiful river, beautiful boats, and a lot of people who had faced disappointments in the 60s. They hadn't gotten as big changes as they wanted, but they still wanted to be involved. And I know I and many other people decided you got to think globally, but you got to act locally. And we decided we'd get busy in our own neck of the woods or our own bend of the river. And this has happened all around America. There are thousands of little organizations like this where people are involved in doing things with their neighbors. I think it's very good. It's also as a coincidence, President Nixon was trying to cool the Vietnam protest and agreed to pass the Water Pollution Amendment of 1972. And with this new water law, we got billions of dollars to build sewage treatment plants. So not only the Hudson is getting cleaner, but the Lake Erie is getting cleaner and so on.
Well, Pete, there's a lot of activity, not only on the river itself, but along the river. We look at the banks out here and we see all kinds of construction going up. What's your reaction to that?
Well, you know, every solution to one problem creates a new problem. And we've helped to create a very serious new problem, which may be more difficult to solve, namely a building explosion in the Hudson. Some people are making millions. They don't think anything's wrong with it. On the other hand, some people who've lived here all their lives say, hey, I can't afford to live in my own home anymore. The taxes are shooting up. What did I do wrong? What they did wrong was they were suckers for somebody who says, don't you want some money to come into your community? Here, these people are bringing in millions to build condominiums, and there'll be some trickle down. You'll get some of it. Well, some people got some of it, but an awful lot of people got higher taxes. And unless we solve this problem, face it, the HUD's going to look to be high rises from the ocean right up to the mountains.
Well, what's the solution? How do you tackle it?
First thing is to recognize that it's a problem. Second thing to say, we the people should be able to democratically solve a problem if we face up to it. Make some big changes. One guy thinks we ought to make the Hudson Valley a state park like the Adirondacks and have one overall commission that says whether you can build anything within it. They might turn down somebody who says, I want to make some money. Why can't? Well, you can make money, just don't make it here. Go outside the park to make it.
There have been a lot of groups that have formed in the last 10, 15 years that are very concerned about the river, the valley, and all that goes on environmentally with it as well. This you had something to do with. Does this give you a feeling of pride, satisfaction, perhaps?
Oh, I'm a lucky person to live long enough to see young people coming along, and they're going to carry on the fight. We've had a few victories. We've had an awful lot of defeats, too. But I don't think that anybody knows for sure what the future is going to bring. But anybody who says there's no hope, I think it's just kind of foolish.
What about this boat we're on? This is a pet project of yours, built in Bearsville, New York, or behind the post office there. How did that come about?
A new Clearwater would cost $500,000 or more. And my wife and I went out and raised some money to build a little boat, and it's operated by the Beacon Sloop Club here. Clearwater has about a dozen local support groups: Albany, Brooklyn, New Jersey, and Beacon is almost like a mid-Hudson sloop group, several hundred people, and we put on festivals. Just finished a Shadfish Festival. In June 14th, there'll be a Strawberry Shortcake Festival, a Corn Festival August 16th, Pumpkin Festival in October. All these things bring people to the water's edge, and we sing them songs and we show them the scientific situation, which is that the river still has a lot of work that's got to be done on it before it's clean. But don't turn your back on it ever again.
You use the word scientific. It's also very political. How do you mix those two, science and politics?
They've got to be mixed. You can't make a right political decision if you don't have the right scientific advice. You can see it in the headlines all the time. Reagan wants to spend $1 trillion on Star Wars, but most of the scientists are saying they don't think it'll work. My guess is, before they're through, that a number of politicians may end up changing their mind. However, the scientific evidence is never all in. They're arguing right now about what to do about certain poisons in the Hudson, not just PCB, but hundreds of other poisons. And it's going to take a lot of money. But face it, if we don't spend the money now, our grandchildren are going to have to spend twice as much or 4 times as much.
Recently, the state allowed that striped bass can be again caught in the Hudson. Not many of them, very minimal amount. But that's some kind of an advancement, is it not?
I guess so. Yeah, it's a crazy thing. The same striped bass that they wouldn't let them catch in the Hudson will swim around to Long Island Sound. They let them catch them there. You can't keep these problems in neat little pigeonholes. They're really worldwide problems. And Rachel Carson, the woman who wrote the book Silent Spring, she said she was a very conservative person in many ways, but she said really only international laws, internationally enforced, will save the human race.
Mm-hmm. Is that day ever going to happen, do you think?
Well, I believe there's a chance for the human race, so I think it will happen. It won't happen tomorrow, it may not happen this century, but it's going to happen sooner or later. And the only question is, how do we take the proper steps? First thing is to stop threatening each other so much. Saying, you touch me and I'm going to knock your block off. Mm-hmm. Let's go out and touch each other and see we got a lot in common.
Pete, what was it like for you as a young man? Where were you raised? Where did you get involved with
I was
the
born
river?
in New York City, went to school in New England. My parents were split. But my grandparents lived in Putnam County, and I spent most of my life, my childhood, in and around the mid-Hudson. And I've lived near Beacon now for almost 40 years. Raised 3 children, and I've got 3 grandchildren.
So when you were a young man, this river was not in so much trouble as it later got to be.
Oh, I used to go swimming in it when we lived at Nyack 60 years ago. But it was getting dirty even then.
Mm-hmm. Did that bother you as a young man? Did you think about those things?
I started reading when I was very young. And I came from a family of readers. I remember, like 10 years old, or 11, H.G. Wells says, the human race is in a contest between education and disaster. Are we going to learn quick enough, or are we going to face the end of the world? And this was heavy stuff for a kid, but I've lived with it all my life.
Mm-hmm. Where do you think it's going now?
I think the whole world is going to have to learn the lesson of the U.S. Constitution. We got to learn to live by law.
Here, take this one.
And this goes for all sorts of people. People high and low. I admit, nearly all of us, we get away with things at times that are illegal. Drive over 55 miles an hour and so on. But it's come to the point where if you don't live by law, the disasters are so big, none of us could live. None of us could live. I'm delighted that the 200th anniversary of the Constitution is coming along this year. Just at the right time to teach 240 million Americans and and indirectly a lot of the rest of the world, what it means to live by law.
I can remember that Freihoffer's taste, so fresh and so good it puts a smile on my face. What Freihoffer's bakes has always been good for you. Remember the freshness, remember the taste, remember the fun on a Freihoffer's face. Freihoffer's, always as good as you remember.
The Mohican Indians inhabited this region centuries ago. Do you know what Mohican means? I'll be right back with the answer.
Try Freihoffer's fresh breads, soft hamburger and hot dog rolls, and scrumptious cookies, always delicious.
Always as good as you remember.
The word Mohican means people of the water that flows both ways. I'm Bob Freihoffer, and we at Freihoffer's are proud to have served your community for over 30 years.
Sailing aboard the 32-foot wooden Woody Guthrie can be very exciting. One maneuver practiced by sailors is a jibe, where the sail shifts from one side of the vessel to the other while moving before the wind. Captain Harry Mendez shows us how it's done.
Okay.
Watch out.
Jibe! Oh! Okay, here we go. Here's the swing.
Heads down.
Okay. Woo! Let her out. All right. Right. Absolutely. Because we're coming in too fast. Yes, we are, aren't we?
Great anyway.
No, we're going to come in and do a J-turn into the mooring.
Heading back to shore isn't always easy, especially on a windy day. We quickly found that out when trying to steer the Woody back into the harbor.
No. Okay, yeah, get the oar out. I'm going to try to scull it in, but we're... Yeah, please. If you can get underneath me
Here, let's
for right
just...
now. All right, let's go. We're almost there, but we need to inch it. All right, can you get the oar locks in? I didn't play this right. Put the other oar in right. All right. I was thinking we could. Pull in the main. Let's sail out. Let's sail out, Pete.
What do you want to do with it, Patty?
Bring it in tight. All right, step down. Step down into the center here. We'll sail out of this jam. That's what we're sailors for. Okay. Okay. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, we're sailing, Pete. If you can get the jib up, we'll have that much more. I like that. I like that. A little adversity makes a better person out of you. Okay. Yeah, I didn't like it, but we made it. Thank goodness I have some instinct.
Little luck involved, maybe?
Yeah, of course.
How much is skill and how much is luck?
I would say we try to make it on 90 to 10, but we'll accept any luck we can get. Okay, now we were fortunate there that very honestly the crew reacted very nicely, and it really wasn't anywhere like a imperiling kind of situation. I was more worried about the boat than anything else. In fact, the rowboat, which we were dragging behind us, and is very expendable. You saw how well it leaked on the way out. All right, Pete, I'm gonna come about. All right, coming about. You ready? Okay, heartily.
What are we doing?
We're coming about now. We're gonna go back and do that maneuver right.
He said.
Right. Okay, ready to let it out. Falling off, letting out main sheet, let out the jib.
Like your starboard lift and drag it. Okay, looking good. I like it. My coils.
Okay, just let her out nicely. Pete, you want to prepare to scandalize again? Now, scandalizing the main, I was telling you before, when we reefed it, that meant we took the sail out from the bottom. Now we're going to drop the sail down so that it loses more of its sail, more of the sail area, and makes it come in a lot slower.
That means we're going to run it up on the rock a little slower.
Right, because we're going to...
Okay, yeah, as you come around, you want me to get that sheet in, right?
I want you to bring the sheet in because I want to make sure we hit the pilings, although we're not going to be as close.
You tell me when to start.
Okay. Okay, now once again, we're heading for the pilings. Okay, but we're not going to be as close. He said. Right now I'm looking for the mooring. It's important to know where you're going.
How long does it take you to learn this kind of thing?
Well, a lot of it is hit and miss, as you can tell by our last miss. But bring it in. Bring in the sheet. Just do it slowly. I've been sailing since the boat went in the water. First year the boat went in the water. I went out for a guest sail and I've been here ever since.
Got hooked.
Yeah. Okay, now we're dropping the jib as well. Okay, which is bringing us in slower. That's kind of why I missed. Okay. Okay, now I'm going to do a hard turn. There we go!
What's Pete doing up there?
Okay. What Pete was doing was digging for it, and somehow it slipped off the hook. Okay, we're sailing again, guys. Raise the jib, like you said. There's a lot of things that can happen. A lot of things that can happen, a lot of them are bad. Obviously, this one's a little mellower than the last one. Okay, basically what happened there is we just didn't grab the mooring. It's just a line that's attached to the... In fact, there it is in there.
Uh-huh.
See, it's two floating devices. There's a line between them, okay? And that's the line we're digging for. And if it happens to slip off the boat hook, originally we used to have to reach down and get it with our hands. And then somebody came up with the bright idea that we shouldn't do that because we could fall overboard.
Yeah.
Okay. That shouldn't be a problem, Pete. We can...
Come in, when you come in, wait till it takes off.
Yeah. We're remarkably making good way anyway. See, now, thank goodness, the wind has become rather steady.
Sailing along the Hudson can be quite treacherous if you're not familiar with its tides. The wind has kept us back twice already from making an easy return, but Harry, Pete, and the rest of the crew are determined now to make it in.
Now I'm doing something that most people, that you don't normally do. I'm going to try to stop the boat in the middle so that they can raise the sail.
Uh-huh.
All right, when the boat gets dead in the water, it's cold. It's in irons, okay? But as soon as they raise it, then they'll back it, and I'll
Just like
get...
an airplane stalling right now. We're just in that.
Like an airplane stalling, huh?
Falling off. Successful mission. Okay.
Is it always this adventurous?
We actually have had some people accuse us of being boring because it's a nice, consistent wind. One thing about the Hudson, though, the wind shifts an awful lot, and we've only got a mile to play in here. Actually less because we don't go into the channel where the big boats come through. We respect size.
Well, want to try once again?
Sure. Are you talking about the jib or are you talking about coming in? Okay. All right. Ready about. Heartily. Okay, start bringing it in slowly. I'm going to have to come in faster. We don't have time to drop the jib. I mean, scandalizing me. He's dropping the jib, but we're still semi-scandalized. Okay. Okay, we brought the sail down, now we're going to turn in. Okay, thank you. The main sheet is now in, so we're in tight. I'm going to spin this boat on a dime. And you see how easy it is when you do it right?
You got it.
It all started with one man's idea to help restore a great waterway. Today, Pete Seeger's thoughts and actions have spread throughout communities along the Hudson Valley and even beyond. We have all seen many of his accomplishments, including the creation of the Hudson River Clearwater Sloop, which covers the same purpose as Pete's own Woody Guthrie. Pete started his rally in the 60s and says he's pleased at what's been done over the years, but he's also looking forward to an even greater future.
Beacon Waterfront was a disaster area when we started. And when we first suggested putting in a waterfront park, the city council just smiled and said, oh, it's a nice idea, but where's the money coming from? But after 8 years of festivals, the Citizens Advisory Board voted to spend almost $1 million on a waterfront park. And they fixed up the parking lot, and now the little club here is by hand, hammer and nail, and so on. We're putting together a floating dock so that the Clearwater and other boats can tie up. The old ferry dock is rotted away. And I think it's one more example that a batch of ordinary people can do things they never dreamed of if they can stick together. That's the key, sticking together.
The Woody Guthrie will be sailing on the river from now through September, spreading the word of the environmental concern and appreciation about this great Hudson River. Members of the Beacon Sloop Club offer 3-hour cruises aboard the Woody, and it's open to the public. Thanks for coming aboard this time. We'll be back again right here next week, same time, on the river.